This was on Vice the other day. Let's see this. The headline is Scientists Studying Temperature at which Humans Spontaneously Die with Increasing Urgency. I wonder why this is happening. What could it be? What has arisen on the landscape of humanity just in the last year and a half, 2.5 years that would lend itself to maybe this kind of outcome? Wet bulb conditions are when heat and humidity can cause otherwise healthy humans to overheat and die. They're happening more often than ever. Wow, what could it be, Schmitty? I don't know. Let's ask the Cat Dog Cat Corporation, the WH, and the OA. Last week's historic heat wave saw portions of the Northwest breaking all-time temperature records and gearing up for wildfire risks. And then, you know what they're going to blame? I saw an article today. Do I have it up? I don't think I have it up. I should have kept it up so we could do it as a companion article to this. But they were actually blaming people who'd already gotten the Convids 1984 by George Orwell. If you'd already gotten infected with it, then that's what's going on. And they're also blaming the excessive temperatures and the climate change. And man, we got to do something about this, or we're going to have a whole lot of people, this sudden adult death syndrome, SADS, SADS. That's what they're blaming it on. The heat can feel apocalyptic, and scientists are increasingly studying the heat and humidity conditions. Take your eyes off of where it's supposed to be on. You're supposed to be looking here, but they want you to look over here. At which humans suddenly die, a phenomenon that is becoming increasingly common as a result of extreme weather driven by climate change. It couldn't be anything else. It's got to be the climate change. Bill Gates, do something to save us. This perhaps best illustrated in a study published last year in the Science Advances, alarmingly titled "The Emergence of Heat and Humidity Too Severe for Human Tolerance." The emergence of heat and humidity too severe for human tolerance. Originally, conditions like this weren't expected until the mid-21st century, according to climate models, but they're actually already here, and I wonder what brought them into being. It couldn't have been that company where if you still look it up on Google, the Google search, it says they're a habitual fraudulent offender engaged in corrupt marketing practices, bribing physicians, and suppressing adverse trial results. It wouldn't be because of that, would it? It wouldn't be because of their product, from which they have basically qualified immunity. They have medical immunity, big farm guy immunity from any kind of liability claim. In that study, these researchers right here surveyed weather station data from across the world collected between 1979 and 2017 and found that over 7,000 instances of so-called wet bulb conditions, which can lead to human deaths. But all of a sudden now, we've had this thing since 1979 to 2017, but just now in the last year and a half, 2.5 years, we're seeing these sudden adult death syndrome popping up all over the place, which can lead to human deaths. Wet bulb temperature is the point at which humidity and heat hit a point where evaporation due to sweat no longer works to cool the person. Most of these wet bulb conditions, and I'm not saying these kind of conditions don't exist. If you've ever had heat stroke, it is not fun. You literally stop sweating, you get cold chills, your head feels like it's going to explode off of your neck. Most of these wet bulb conditions were concentrated in the South Asia and coastal Middle East and Southwest North America, areas denoted in red and orange on the map. Let's see, where's this? I don't see the map. There's no map on here. The conditions aren't actually that hard to imagine. Wet bulb conditions occur when relative humidity is above 95% and temperatures are at least 88 degrees Fahrenheit, according to the study. The human body, Horton's study found, is essentially unable to withstand wet bulb conditions all at once. Temperatures hit 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Under these conditions, it's possible for otherwise healthy people to die. But that's what they're blaming it on. Couldn't be anything else. No other factor. It's just this. That's all it is. Even if they're in perfect health, even if they're sitting in the shade, even if they're wearing clothes that make it easy to, in principle, to sweat, even if they have an endless supply of water, if there's enough moisture, even if you have all these things, if there's enough moisture in the air, it's thermodynamically impossible to prevent the body from overheating. Really? So even if you have all these factors which would normally work in your favor, all of a sudden they don't work anymore. As of about 2.5 years ago. Well, we can't figure it out. We don't know what's causing this. This is really befuddling us. What kind of payout can I get for this, writing this article here? Who's going to pay me? Horton's research was supported by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, that's NOAA, meaning that the U.S. government has been actively studying the weather conditions. You mean the ones that they control? You mean the using weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather by 2025? Those people? If it's climate change and you guys can control the climate, then aren't all these deaths on your head, federal government? Or are they on the head of the big farm guy? Oh, who should we blame here? Oh, you're blaming the climate that the U.S. government says they can control. So if the U.S. government can control the weather, but they're not controlling it to such an extent where it's not killing people, then all the people that are dying because of the climate is because of the U.S. government and all the other nations of the world that claim to be able to modify and control the weather? Oh, okay. Seems to me that this Vice article would put them in a catch-22. If it's climate change and you can control the climate, then it's your fault if these people die because you could have done something to avert all those deaths. Which otherwise healthy humans spontaneously die. I love that. Some locations have already reported combined heat and humidity extremes above human survivability limits. Sweating is a necessary function for coping with hot days. Once on the surface of the skin, sweat droplets can get hot enough that they turn into a gas and dissolve, eliminating heat and keeping the body's internal temperature down. The problem is the atmosphere's ability to take up moisture is finite. Water can only transform into a gaseous state if the air surrounding the body is dry enough to accept it in overly humid conditions. And this is true. It's very dangerous to be in a humid condition like that. Sweat is less likely to evaporate into the atmosphere than in dry conditions. Dry heat like that of the desert is typically more comfortable than humid heat. So they're going to sit here and blame climate when there's so many other factors that could be involved. And you know what that one factor is that I'm thinking about. Or you probably should. You probably do. Amazing what they're going to blame. Amazing how stupid they think society is. And you know what? They're probably right. To some extent, there's a large group of people out here who will just buy this hook, line, and sinker and not ask any more questions. It's like, wait a second. Why is this happening in the last year, 2 years, 3 years? Wait a second. What happened on March 11th, 2020? And then what happened in December of 2020? Oh, that's right. You guys made us take ...